Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. We've got a great show for you tonight. With me is my fantastic co-host, Gabriel Pickup. We've got some news, we've got some updates, and we've got some great topics for you. If you like that show, please hit that. If you like the show, hit that like and subscribe button. And we've got the link to the show in the chat. So if you want to call in, we'd love to hear your comments and discuss Rutgers football with you. So, Gabe, let's get right to it. It's going to be an interesting season this year in 2025. The impact players for 2025. I've got 5 of them, and I've got 5 sleepers. Yep. So why don't we start with you? Who do you think is going to really make an impact for the Scarlet Knights this year as they, try to be competitive in the Big Ten and ultimately get a playoff berth?
Well, obviously, it takes a team to thrive, right? Just because we're listing these impact players and these sleeper players doesn't mean that they're the be-all, say-all of the team or the say-all, be-all. And it doesn't mean that these are the only guys that will make the team better or worse, right? It takes a whole team. But with that being said, these guys, I believe, are more crucial impact players and more crucial X factors when it comes to the sleepers. So my number 5 impact player next season is Bo Masco, right cornerback. And the reason why I have him as my top 5 impact is because he's going to see the ball thrown his way a lot more than Cam Miller is, right? Cam Miller, transfer senior from Penn State, right? So he knows about winning. He knows about being an impact player already, and he's going to get that Revis Island treatment. No one's going to throw his way. So, Bo, it's up to you to be in our top 5 impact players and possibly move higher on the list come around September.
That's a great call. Well, my number 5 is the gentleman you just mentioned, Cam Miller from Penn State. I think he brings a lot to the secondary, and we're going to need a great secondary next year against some pretty explosive teams in Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State with Drew Aller. So I think Cam Miller is a great addition to the defense. A couple interceptions there at Penn State. He was an impact player there. I think he can be a star for Rutgers and bring Rutgers defense back to those teams of 2006 and the early 2000s when they really became competitive on a national level. So, Cam Miller, you are number 5 on the list. Who you got at number 4?
So it looks like both of us went, secondary for that top 5, and that's important because we've seen, I don't want to keep mentioning that one game, but we've seen our team get torched in the secondary when it matters, when it's early in the game, and in garbage time. So moving forward, we need to lock down that secondary or at least be at a pedestrian level, right? Because
Gabe, before we move forward, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm getting flashbacks of that game against Illinois.
That's the game I did not want to mention, Adam.
I hate to mention it, but what in God's name happened on that 4th down? First, the guy catches the ball, what looked like on a post. Then everybody's out of position and takes the wrong angle, and he scores. Can't have that happen. That should have been a win. But go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, it makes perfect sense because we had a great offensive line. We had a defensive line that could be better, but it ultimately wasn't our top weakness, right? We had a quarterback that was inconsistent but showed flashes of brilliance. And it was overall a season that, from the outside looking in, a lot of non-Rutgers fans, people who don't watch Big Ten football, they would say it was a good season, a successful season. But obviously with us, with Shiano, we have bigger expectations, and it starts with the defense. So with that being said, my number 4 pick for impact player, and he did attend another university last year, but this is a guy that I believe is crucial because I did say that it could use some improvement, that defensive line, and Eric O'Neill can definitely improve that defensive line. He had 13 sacks last year at JMU. Yes, that means that he was at a school known for its brains rather than its athletics, but that also means the competition was on that same level, right? So he was a standout player amongst other players that, we're also striving to advance their career. But he had 13 sacks. He had 24 tackles. He even got an interception. This guy can do it all, and we need to see that this next year.
I agree with you. And anybody on the defensive line next year is really going to be a potential impact player because, you know what? We need larger players, faster players, and smarter players. And coming from James Madison, I'll take a smart player and an athletic player anytime. Well, for my number 4, I went to the offense.
Okay.
And, my best friend lives in Texas, and I've gone and visited him a few times. Texas, beautiful state. Austin, fantastic city. A lot of great universities there. One of them that isn't talked about a lot is the University of North Texas.
Okay.
Yes, of course. And we saw at the University of North Texas last year, they had a wide receiver that was lights out, not only fast, but quick, electric, elusive, dynamic. And he's been on this show before, DT Sheffield, otherwise known to me as TD Sheffield, because I think DT Sheffield is going to be a star for Rutgers this year. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to catch over 1,000 yards, in receiving. And I think he might be at that NFL Combine. He's not only a great player, but this guy is mature. This guy is experienced, and he wants to win. DT Sheffield, he's going to be a stud for Rutgers this year.
I'm surprised you called him DT this time. All right. Respect.
Out of respect, DT.
Yes.
We love you.
Of course. Love to have you back, too. And anyone on the team that wants to come on, you're more than welcome. My number 3 here, I'm also switching to offense. And I'm going with someone that will see the ball a lot, but not alongside Ethan, but behind him. That's right. I'm going with CJ Campbell. That's my number 3 pick. Number 3 because – how are you doing, Austin? Nice to see you here. Number 3 because he is going to be our starting running back, and he's a redshirt senior. He's going to be filling Kyle Monangai's shoes, which are massive. And he's not going to be doing it all by himself, but he will be our primary running back ahead of Antoine Raymond, who I will be talking about in a little bit as a sophomore. Plenty of promise, but CJ, redshirt senior. So he's an older guy, but that means that he should be a little more physically dominant. So here's hoping, right, that we can establish that running game, free up some spots for DT, for Duff, for Strong. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, that's a good pick. On my list, I'm going back to the defense, to our leading tackler 2 years ago, linebacker Daryl Jabome. This guy is a star, and he was injured last year, and he's going to be a star again. He's fast. He knows how to read offenses. He's quick. He's going to be anchoring that Rutgers defense. And I think with the new transfers on the defensive line and people like Cam Miller and Jet Elad in the secondary, Jabome is going to have a great year. He's going to lead the team in tackles again. And he's another one who's going to be playing on Sundays, in my opinion.
Well, I hope that he's impactful because we're going to be missing out on Tyson Powell's services. And this is a guy that hopefully, addition by subtraction. I guess that's sort of saying can be applied here, right? Because you get rid of Powell, but you also bring back Jabome, who was injured all year. And we remember how dominant he was in 2023 or 2020. Yeah, 2023. I'm getting my years confused here. I think with my lists, I kind of started confusing impact and sleepers towards the end of it because I really probably should have put Jabome on here and put Eric O'Neill on sleepers. But with that being said, I'm going to move to number 2, and I'm going to bring up the guy that you already brought up on the offensive end, DT Sheffield.
DT.
Now, I have him this high. And real quick, I also want to shout out KJ Duff because he's a sophomore, outstanding. DT gave him plenty of props when he was on the show. And I'm not going to be talking about him on either list, but that doesn't mean that his impact won't go unnoticed. He's going to have some great numbers too. But with DT, man, he came on here. He said his ceiling is 1,000 plus yards, double-digit touchdowns, and I believe he can do it. And I believe he can do it on a team with plenty of other options in receiving and running back and a guy who can run the ball at QB himself. I still think he's going to get his numbers down. And this guy coming from North Texas, he's got that dog in him coming from the South anyway because he was born and raised in Mississippi. His culture is going to be the biggest factor on that field.
I'm with you 100%. DT, this is your year. You got to do it this year, and you're going to do it. I watched the highlights from him at North Texas, and I was I was surprised, if not shocked, how elusive he was, how he could elude tacklers, and his speed. This guy is the real deal, and probably one of the best additions for Rutgers in a long time. I think that's a great choice. Now,
him and Cam Miller, top 2 additions probably in a couple of years.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to go to number 2. And you said earlier, who's the starting running back for Rutgers?
It is CJ. Mr. CJ Campbell.
All right, I'm gonna slightly disagree. CJ, you are in a serious competition because you got two backs in Antoine Raymond, and I had Antoine Raymond / Deshaun Benjamin. These two averaged over 4 yards per carry last year. They're dynamic, they're physical, and they're fast. Campbell may be a fantastic back, but I think it's going to be running back by committee. And if we get that, we're going to have an incredible degree of balance in the running game to complement those great receivers that we have. So I'm going to have Antoine Raymond / Deshaun Benjamin in the second spot as two people that can really bring a lot of value to Rutgers and impacts that can win those close games. And I see them particularly, on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I see them moving the chains.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 4th and 1, that's going to be Raymond's spot to shine. But you know what's funny? There's a guy sandwiched in between them on the depth chart that you didn't bring up, and that is Samuel Brown, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but the 5th Samuel Brown in his family.
Good point.
He is listed as player number 3 according to OurLads.com for 2025 Rutgers depth chart. But obviously, Deshaun Benjamin can move above him. He's got the talent to. And to me, and honestly, I think all 4 of these guys, obviously they'd love the touches, but they're all team players first. And so when you say running back by committee, I believe it. I believe that whole position can be characterized as one player, not because there's only one player, but because it's all one mindset. And that is
absolutely. That's a great point. And you know what? They are team players. And team players win championships. That Michigan team in 2023, that was a team. And these two, one of the things I look at when I analyze running backs is their initial burst. And these two have it. They accelerate quickly. They hit the hole hard. I think they're going to be impact players this year. Now, I have a feeling, I'm going to go to you for number 1. I have a strange feeling we are going to agree on this, but please go ahead.
Yeah, so, he throws the football. He's listed as QB, and, he's in his second year with the team. That man, his name, Johnny Shepard. No, Ethan Kaliakmanis. I mean, I don't have to explain why he's the most impactful player on the team. He sees the ball the most. He calls plays the most. If healthy, he should have the best highlight reels on the team. And let's just hope for a little more consistency this year, eh?
Yes, Ethan, we love you. We support you. We want to have you on the show at some point. You are capable of brilliance. There were some brilliant moments last year. There was a moment in that USC game, I think it was in the 3rd quarter, when Ethan threw an absolute bullet, and they eventually scored. And to see that guy's arm, I mean, he has a cannon for an arm. Yeah. He's also got a tremendous amount of grit. He wants to win, and he fights on every play. Now, I think that he made some ill-advised passes when he went off his first read and was under pressure. But those are things that are fixable. If he puts everything together this year, Rutgers can have an outstanding year going into that magical 2026 year when they're going to make the playoffs. So, Ethan, we're behind you. You've got all the tools, put them together, and, Rutgers is going to be successful if you're successful, and I predict that you will be.
And guess what? When it comes to those mental mistakes, that happens to 90+% of college quarterbacks. And we're just thinking that this year he's going to be in that top 10%, if not top 10 by the end of the year in quarterbacks.
Yes, and let's not forget, speaking of those mental mistakes, Drew Aller, why are you throwing it to Notre Dame with 38 seconds left? Wrong team. Throw the ball away.
Cam Miller might not come on the show if you keep going at his dog like this.
Listen, Cam, you got to come on the show. I mean, we provide a balanced and honest analysis. Come on, you could take it.
I'm sure he's still
Drew,
cool.
Don't throw it to the wrong team, Drew.
Yeah, I'm sure he's still cool with those guys over in the Hershey area, but
not after that interception. He probably said, "I'm getting the hell out of here."
He said, if I'm gonna go out sad, I might as well help rebuild a program and show why I'm NFL ready.
That's right. He's like, wait a second. I'm on full scholarship on a team that throws it to the wrong team in the playoffs with 38 seconds left. I got to get out of here. And where did he go? The place where everybody should go, whether they're in football or not, the great state of New Jersey.
Absolutely. Let's let's move on here. We got some top 5 sleepers. You want to go first for this one? Top
Sure.
5 sleepers for Rutgers in 2025.
Yeah, James Madison is an academic school. South Florida, not necessarily an academic school, but still solid, and got some great players on that defensive front. And the defensive front this year is going to be critical to Rutgers' success. And I love people whose middle name is a color. So I like Doug Blue Eli on the defensive line, transfer from South Florida.
Technically a hyphenated name, but I'll give you that.
Oh, yeah, the hyphen is all right. You know what? It takes a second longer to say his name, but it's worth it. Because I think on that defensive line, he's going to be a stud this year. South Florida is always a very physical team. Last year, Alabama only had 14 points after the third quarter against them. Doug Blue Eli, an invaluable addition to that defensive line this year for Rutgers.
Yeah, definitely a great talking point. He's a sleeper in that he went to in a school known for its brains, and he's a sleeper in the sense that we don't know too much about his game or how he will perform, but he's listed as a starter, and he's got some decent numbers, so we'll have to see. My number 5 is a guy you mentioned previously as the first of your 2 running backs in running back by committee, and that is Antoine Raymond. Because CJ Campbell, like I said, he's not going to be the only guy getting the ball in the backfield. It's going to be Raymond too, and we're going to see Samuel Brown get some touches, Jashaun Benjamin towards the end of the year get some touches. Like, it's a running back by committee, and the committee is not 1 or 2 or 3 guys, it's 4. And the next man up in that committee, at least on the depth chart, is Antoine Raymond. And, sophomore coming in, he learned behind Monangai. He knows the culture already. He saw the heartbreak of last year. He saw the flashes of dominance last year. And there's no doubt that when he gets his number called, 4th and 1, 3rd and 4, or, if CJ goes down, which cross our fingers, we don't want that to happen, but running back is the most injured position in the sport. He's going to be next up. And I think he's got the trust of Shiano too. So he's my number 5.
That's a good call there. All right, let's go on to number 4. One of the things I love about Las Vegas is the slot machines. I love playing the slots, and I really like UNLV's campus. It reminds me of the early 90s with Jerry Tarkanian chewing on that towel as they got upset by Duke in the Final Four in their quest for a repeat national title. Another gentleman at UNLV, Jet Elad, is coming over from where? UNLV. And he is going to really fortify that secondary. And along with Cam Miller, Rutgers is going to be tough to throw on. And with a strong defensive line, they're going to be tough to run on. So this could be a special year for Rutgers. What do you think about Jet?
Oh, so bad that I had to leave the room. No, I think he's great. And, we hope that he stays around this year. By the way, I put that gambling line down under in case you need it for loving Las Vegas.
Oh, yes. I don't have a gambling problem, but I do wish I had hit the jackpot once in a while. But anyway.
That would be nice, yeah. I digress. I think he's great. He's got some drama going on in the NCAA. He's suing them for eligibility. He's a redshirt senior. I'm guessing that he wants to play one more year after this because Shiano said that he expects him to play this year and that it shouldn't be a big deal. But, yeah, obviously a huge impact player, our starting free safety. My number 4, it's one of the few guys on defense coming back next year, Jordan Thompson. And he's not starting, but he is listed as left defensive end, and he's going to be still seeing the field, obviously, because he's a senior, redshirt senior, and, he's all like him, Zaire Angoy, Doug Blue Eli, Eric O'Neill. These guys are all redshirt seniors. So in theory, hopefully they're all really good to the point where we can recycle their usage. And he's one of the few on the defensive end or the defense in general that actually knows or has experience, rather, as a Scarlet Knight.
Absolutely. That's a good choice. Let's go on to number 3. Tight ends are really underrated. So you got some tight ends out there. If they can block and if they can run a 4.6, even a 4.7, they can be a factor, especially on third downs. It's about time for Colin Weaver to break out. And I think he's going to do it this year. I think he's going to be one of those situational players that can be effective in complementing the passing game. I think he's a good blocker, and I think it's Colin's time to shine. I got him at number 3 as a sleeper impact player. What do you think?
That's a great pick. He was listed as the number 9 transfer tight end this year, which is – sorry, I almost dropped my water bottle there. That would have been a disaster. But yeah, I think that he's going to do some great things for us in the run game too. He's a great blocker, and he'll be good for the check down pass, the deep ball that might be going towards Duff or Strong, or if DT sees himself get the ball and then run up field. But maybe he'll get a target or two in deep coverage, and we'll see how he does with that. But for me, this guy seems like a great blocker, and he's got some good receiving numbers too. God bless your soul. So I think it's a great pick. But I didn't go with him because, to me, I kind of can already guess how he'll be, which is dominant for a tight end at Rutgers, because we haven't really had a great tight end. Honestly, no shade to anyone who has played tight end at Rutgers, but I can't remember if we've ever had an elite one per se. So he might be the best tight end since 2000 that we've had.
Absolutely. I think he's going to be he's definitely a sleeper, and I think it's going to be an offense that defenses are really going to have to contend with. And you never know what could happen in Columbus in the Horseshoe. I'm telling you, we've got the players.
Well, I mean, we're due for an upset or two right after last year's heartbreak.
Yes. Don't mention Illinois.
No. I mean, that's far from the only heartbreak, but at least we got let down easy a few other games. But my number 3, I've already mentioned him, but I'm not talking about him in the same instance. I'm talking about DT Sheffield, the return man, as my number 3.
Wow.
Because, special teams, super underrated. It determines field position. If it's the last play of the game or the second to last play of the game, it can determine the whole game.
Yeah.
People love to blame the kickers. People love to praise kickers. No one talks about these return men unless they're top of the notch. Unless they're upper echelon, no one talks about them. And I think people are going to talk about DT as an elite return man because he averaged 18 yards per punt return with North Texas, right? For punt returns, you got to create a lot of space to get more than 5 yards. And he was averaging 18. People don't even average 18 yards returning kicks in some programs. So we're going to have a great, if the ball gets touched at the 10, I expect him to bring it back to at least the 20, if not the 30, maybe get 1 or 2 touchdowns that way. So to me, he's a good enough return man to where he's top 3 sleeper player when it comes to the return game.
That's a good call there. I like that. Very insightful. All right, so we're going to go to number 2 here. And, I'm going to go to somebody who's 6'6", 220, 27 receptions for 425 yards last year and a touchdown. KJ Duff. KJ, you're a big part of that receiving core this year, and I think he's going to have a breakout year. And combined with DT Sheffield and Ben Black and their other receivers, they're going to have a very formidable wide receiving unit. And, KJ had some great catches last year, showed a lot of promise as a freshman. I think the progress he makes this year makes him likely an impact player.
Yeah, like I said, this receiving core is one of the best we've had in a long time, maybe since those early mid-2000s days, right? We've definitely had our share of weapons, but when it comes to overall receiving core, we might have the best we've had since Chiano's first stint with the team.
I agree with you on that one. And who's your number 2?
With that being said, my number 2 is also a receiver, but it's not Duff, it's not DT, and shout out Ben Black. It's not Ben Black either. It's Ian Strong. So he's coming in. This is going to be his 3rd year in the NCAA, right? He went from 16 catches to 43 last year, 230 yards to 676. So he went up in his average yards per catch, and he got 5 touchdowns out of it. And for me, I expect him to be a sleeper player in the sense that everyone looks at KJ Duff as the guy when it comes to the receiving core. Everyone looks at DT as, Tyreek Hill, basically a Tyreek Hill, from the early days of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see if he can become the latter days of the Chiefs/Dolphins days. And they also look at Ben Black as a rising prospect, but no one is talking about Ian Strong and how consistent he is, especially after last year, how we can rely on him when no one else is showing up in the receiving game. And we have more options now, which means that his impact will be felt more because he'll be open more.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice and very well reasoned. Now, number one, well, not number one, but the last one on my sleeper impact here, again, comes from James Madison. 6'2", 295 last year on that defensive line for James Madison, 28 tackles and 6 tackles for loss. I don't think I'm going to pronounce it right, but nonetheless, this guy has the chance to be a star. It's called Daryl Denagohi from James Madison on defensive line. And if that defensive line really shines, it's going to be a really winning year for Rutgers. What do you think?
It's great. I mean, he's listed as second in the defensive tackle, but I mean, he'll still play all the time. And, unfortunately, the defensive line is probably the second most when it comes to injuries behind running back. So
absolutely.
And also, like, depending on what system we use, because we may switch from being a 4-3 to a 3-4, so on. But if we have like a 4-3, he's going to be out there every play. So I couldn't agree more. And, all these James Madison guys, maybe they'll bring some more smarts to the defense. What do you think?
I think that when you got a player who has brains and athleticism, you have the recipe for national championship. I mean, let's look at J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. Perfect example.
Absolutely. And my number one, sticking with the defense, redshirt junior from obviously, Rutgers University, because that's what we're doing here. Jacoby Henderson, my number one. 27 solo tackles. Impressive. Could improve, but, he's listed as so he's actually a cornerback by position. But 27 tackles is very good for us. And, 2 interceptions, solid, 10 pass deflections. That's very solid. We have a lot of corners to the point where we know Cam Miller is going to start, and we know that Bo Masco should see a lot of touches too. But Jacoby Henderson, he's sort of rounding out the unit. And if his play is solid, then, he should have a very, very good year. And a lot of people are sleeping on his impact because of the aforementioned players.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is a great list. And, it's all going to come down to the defense. And I feel comfortable with the players that we've brought in. Better size, better smarts, better speed, more experience to complement what should be a great offense. And with Coach Schiano, Coach Schiano is a defensive guy. So I think Coach Schiano is going to really have that defense ready to play. And if they can avoid injuries, then it could be a special year for Rutgers leading into the 2026 magical season.
We got a lot of odds stacked up against us, but I know that our players are embracing that.
Yep, and I love the team-oriented focus that they have and the winning mentality. That's a culture that can prove vital if they're going to have a shot to make the playoffs and compete in the Big Ten.
And speaking of winning mentality, here's our next guest.
Oh, we have somebody here joining the show. One of the stars of the Rutgers show, Austin Williams. Always love having Austin on the show for his insights. Austin, welcome to the show. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, pretty good. How about you? Happy Monday, fellas.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, sir.
This is an interesting topic that is being brought up this week because when you talk about impact players, it's players that are going to be the difference maker. And one of them that you all mentioned that I could not agree with more is Cam Miller, the Penn State transfer. And here's why. I feel like he's going to be your all's version of Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
And I mean that with all due respect, Mr. Sauce Gardner.
No, it's funny you say that because, the cornerback position is one of the few that Jets fans can hold their head up high on when they're talking about historically speaking. They have statistically probably the best shutdown corner in NFL history in Darrelle Revis. And then rookie Sauce Gardner, also analytically speaking, one of the best cornerbacks ever. So with Cam Miller, he can be that sort of guy when it comes to this team specifically. Because like I said, he's going to be having his own island out there that no one's going to want to. That's why, you could include him as number 1, number 2, number 3 impact player, but I just went with Bo Masco because he's going to be getting a lot more opportunities to make plays.
And that's fair too. And the thing too is with Cam Miller is I think a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of offenses are going to have to change their offensive plans because of Cam Miller. Because a lot of them are like, if you got corners that are just about equal, no one dominant, you're like, okay, we can attack about any one of you. But with Rutgers now, with Cam Miller, guess what? You have to game plan because he's going to be lined up on your best receiver. It's no longer going to be everyone's equal on the defensive side. We can attack each and every one of you. Cam Miller's going to be that guy. They're like, I ain't throwing them that way.
You know
Let me
what?
go over here.
You know what I'm really excited for? Adam, you mentioned Ohio earlier. I am really, really excited to see how Cam Miller lines up against Jeremiah Smith. That is going to be must-watch TV for me.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see that either. I think
Even if he gets torched, because he could get torched. Jeremiah Smith is one of the best receiving prospects that the NFL has, or the really college football has ever produced. But every receiver has their bad games, and we saw Randy Moss get held to 17 yards. Who knows?
He's not getting torched. He's already played on that state. He knows their talent. But, I've actually broken down the schedule into 3 different categories. But I'll get into that in a bit. Austin, what other thoughts do you have for us?
Another thing is, like y'all mentioned about Ethan Kaliak McManus, how he's the most impactful because he is the quarterback. No matter what decision he makes, if Rutgers loses on a last-second field goal, it's always going to come back to Ethan. They're going to be like, oh, Ethan should have made this throw. Ethan should have done this. Ethan shouldn't have gotten sacked. Or he should have ran it. He should have audibled. It's always going to come back to Ethan, whether we like it or not. And it's not fair to him. But since he is the quarterback, like you said, Gabe and Adam, he's going to get all the pressure. He's going to get all the criticism, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah, and let me just make this clear too, right? So some people believe that the top however many, 130 whatever quarterbacks in D1 football are the top however many number, player. That's like the top ranking of each player because they're the most important. I don't necessarily believe that because there's certain instances where, for us in 06, Ray Rice was the most impactful player and he wasn't a quarterback. And, we've seen, for instance, Kenny Britt or Mohamed Sanu, for instance, most impactful player, but they weren't a quarterback. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a quarterback that's the most impactful, but obviously the biases lean that way.
I agree. And like last year, I would argue Mikhail Manungai was your most impactful player. You may disagree with me, but he was that offense for Rutgers a lot of times.
Very possible.
Absolutely the most impactful player. And, against USC, he showed how tough he really was and gained those hard-fought yards. But he was really the anchor for that offense. And really, given his size, the guy played way above it, what you would think someone of his size would be. And he was a star for Rutgers, and we'll miss him.
And Adam, that's NFL ready Kyle Manungai to you.
NFL ready? What did you say? Oh.
Well, and I want to ask you guys this. The reason why I called in, I want to ask you guys this. So Rutgers traditionally is a run-heavy team. But Rutgers have got a plethora of wide receiver talent. Like you two have said, maybe the best they've ever seen in their history. Do you think Rutgers might spread it out more this year, or do you still think they're going to stick to their DNA?
Adam, I'll let you answer this one first because I've been yapping like a mofo.
Great question, Austin. I think what a great coach does is a great coach adjusts to the talent around him. I think they're going to spread it out. I think they're going to throw it more. And I think they have depth at wide receiver combined with speed that's going to make it very problematic for defenses to defend us, provided that the running backs are serviceable in that they're averaging at least 3 to 4 yards per carry to complement the wide receiver core. So I think you're going to see a different Rutgers offense that is more heavy in the passing game, but we need to have a running game that is respected to keep the defenses honest. So I think it's going to be reversed this year. I think their DNA, a good coach doesn't go with the DNA if it doesn't fit the context. And this year, the context to me calls for wide receiver heavy, running back complimentary, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of points for this Rutgers offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the first year maybe that I can remember, honestly, that we have a wide receiver core, and that includes Colin Weber at tight ends, that is more impressive than our running back core. So I do believe that Keanu is going to adjust. We're going to throw the ball a little more and run it. Obviously, that's excluding when Ethan decides to run it himself. Because if you add on his stats, maybe we do run it more. But what team do I always compare this team to? Adam, I think you know the answer to this, right? The NFL team that I always compare this year's Rutgers team to?
Tell me.
Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yes.
So let me get back to this point with them. The Miami Dolphins, right? They're known for having a very peculiar offensive style, but it works, and it's a top 5 in the league when everyone's healthy. Maybe even top 1 when everyone's healthy. So what do? They throw the ball a lot. They throw it deep. They check down. God bless your soul. Oh, good Lord. You sneezed so hard you disappeared from the camera.
Getting over a bad cold.
Prayers to you. So they throw the ball everywhere. But on top of that, Raheem Mostert had the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL, and Devon Achane became one of the most impressive running backs in the NFL. So when I look at that and I compare this team to that team, we need CJ Campbell to be Mr. Reliable, but we need Antoine Raymond to also be sort of a power back that we need. Anyway, yes, I do believe that the wide receiving core is better than the running backs this year, but it doesn't mean that they should just fade away.
And the reason why I kind of want to piggyback off this, because this is kind of little rabbit hole I want to take you down real fast.
Okay.
I like Ethan, but I feel like he's a quarterback. If he doesn't have a good running game behind him, I feel like he tends to struggle a little more. And I don't mean that to slight you all or nothing. I love Rutgers. I don't mind him. But just from watching him, it seemed like when Monungai was shut down, it seemed like Rutgers' offense went cold, like they couldn't do anything. That's why I kind of was like, do you think Shiano will stick to the DNA, even though we have all this talent now, but knowing our quarterback, Ethan, he still needs that little run game to support him.
Right. So I hear you, but in the same sense, we lost a lot of guys on defense. We lost a great running back, but we didn't really lose anyone in the wide receiving core. In fact, we gained 2 really good weapons in DT Sheffield and Colin Weaver. So I don't think he'll struggle as much when the running backs struggle, and we should see them struggle a tad bit more this year, unfortunately. But I believe that the receiving core sort of not only negates that, but the talent of the receiving core is more impressive than the weaknesses of the running back core.
Yeah, and I think what we saw from Antoine Raymond and Jashawn Benjamin is guys who, when they got in there, were averaging over 4 yards per carry. So I think we're going to have a formidable running game. But I think with the depth of wide receiver and the speed and the playmaking ability, the DNA for Rutgers doesn't fit this year's team. New coaches adjust. But here's the thing. If we're going to be a fairly pass-heavy team, the critical factor is first down completion percentage. You absolutely have to complete over 70% of your passes on first down, or else you're putting the offense in 2nd and 10. And we can't have that, because what are you going to do on 2nd and 10? Well, if you run the ball, you're likely to put yourself in a 3rd and 5 or more position, which is never good. And if you pass the ball, defenses are going to predict that. So I think for Rutgers this year, their first down completion percentage and yards per play is going to be critical to their offensive success. They need to average about 4 yards on that first down.
And I think that they should get over 70%, because DT Sheffield's going to be the check down guy. And do you remember who our slot receiver was last year?
I do not.
Exactly. We're going to remember who DT Sheffield is come this time next year. So I think that first down percentage is going to be a little more towards 80.
Yeah, and DT in the slot, we're in good shape.
And I think another thing to factor into all this is Rutgers' offensive line, because if Ethan drops back and doesn't have more than at least 3 seconds to look, he's going to feel like Justin Fields was at the Bears a couple years ago, where he's running around, and then that makes stupid decisions, throwing pick six, and then Adam's going to be coming on here with his head head off because he doesn't know what Rutgers is doing. But it all starts with the O-line, and I feel like that's the success. Rutgers is going to have a winning football team. It starts with the O-line. As Adam says, they need the beef.
That's right. I remember those commercials in the 80s for White Castle called Where's the Beef? Well, we have the beef this year. We've got the smarts, we've got the experience, and we've got the speed. That offensive line has to give him 3 seconds to throw the ball. And they've got to scheme it up so it's high percentage completion rate on first down. Why is first down going to be the biggest thing, in my opinion, for the success of Rutgers offense? When you get teams in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, then you have the option to run or pass. You've got them on their heels. You miss on first down when you throw, or if you even run it and you get a yard, then your tendency is going to be to have to pass. And we want to make sure Rutgers is unpredictable, because if you're unpredictable with that kind of wide receiving core and a really solid group of backs, then you're really hard to defend.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Ethan, when he drops back in the pocket, as long as he moves his feet a little more to the left than the right, he should have a lot of protection, because Tyler Needham at left tackle is a dog.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's a monster, possible NFL guy right there. Who's doing it. But, yeah, we've always had a solid offensive line. But this year, there's a few question marks. But as long as he sticks around, as long as he scrambles left a little more than right, we should be okay. Which I guess, that might be a little easier said than done.
That offensive line needs to be able to be agile and be able to move quickly, laterally. And they also have to know what everybody else is doing. There's got to be that cohesiveness on the line. I'll tell you, if the pieces come together, this could be a surprise year for Rutgers leading into that magical 2026 season.
So, Austin, I got a question for you. So,
yes, sir.
I said 9-3, and I believe Adam did too. And you were calling us crazy. What do you think? You still think we're crazy? You can be honest.
So
if you're crazy, that's fine.
Here's the thing. I have Rutgers going 8-4 right now.
Okay.
So I'm jumping on the train with you. I could see 8 wins.
That's great.
And I feel like what you've presented me with the defensive line, that's where the Big Ten football games are won. And like Adam and you have been preaching, they have the beef now. And that's what Rutgers didn't have a year ago. They're able to get down in the trenches. They're able to stop the run, able to show grit and toughness. They're able to challenge these teams. And that's what Rutgers couldn't do a year ago, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And let me tell you something else. Rutgers has to play with a chip on their shoulder this season. They got to play pissed off, because teams look at Rutgers and they say, oh, it's the same old Rutgers. They might be competitive, but they'll ultimately will win. Like Nebraska, we lost 14-7. UCLA beat us 35-32. Illinois beat us on like the last second play. We've got to clean that up so that we're winning the close ones and gaining the respect. And to do that, you got to play as a team with a chip on your shoulder. And I think Rutgers has it this year.
I think, you know who sounded pissed off, but in a great way? DT Sheffield. When he was on this show, he sounded pissed off, but he sounded like confident pissed off too. Like this team isn't getting enough respect, and they're gonna turn some heads. So 8-4, I'll accept that. That would be a great year for us. It would be an improvement, and it would be a step in the right direction for this 2026 year that Adam paints as the Holy Grail.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing about transfers. It's not just the talent they bring, it's the experience and the intangibles that they bring to a team.
You know what? I don't know how much you guys know about modern day baseball, but to me, Cam Miller, landing him as a transfer is sort of the Orioles getting Corbin Burns. Now, obviously, Corbin Burns isn't on that team anymore, but when you talk about a front office that some may see as sort of like stingy, not wanting to spend, not wanting to recruit. That's the reputation that Rutgers has, is that we're not great in the transfer portal, and we don't like to recruit these 5-star guys, 4-star guys, because we don't think we'll get them anyway, so we like to settle. But Cam Miller, to me, landing him is like, obviously he might not be here like, for next year or whatever, but that's, to me, like it's the equivalent in terms of like taking a front office seriously.
And a couple more things I want to bring up to you guys is Rutgers middle linebacker core. I think this is going to be a key component to Rutgers' success on that defense, and here's why. Because we see middle linebackers and outside linebackers now being able to cover tight ends and receivers, and being able to stuff the run and play the quarterback run like Fred Warner. Rutgers, if they're going to do that, middle linebacker, outside linebacker, to me, are going to be two impacts, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to help stop that run. And especially with some running quarterbacks that are coming within the Big Ten. I know Adam likes to pick on Drew Aller, but he does have the legs to take off when need to be. He doesn't always make the right decisions when he takes off sometimes. But how do y'all see your all's outside linebackers, middle linebackers playing a part in helping Rutgers' defensive line, helping the beef out, so to speak?
I'm actually, I would say happy, but I'm a little sad that you said that because obviously we're losing Tyreen Powell, who is possibly going to get drafted into the NFL. And he was the beef in the middle linebacker role and probably the best middle linebacker we've had in this decade. So outside linebackers, Dariel Jabomi, Abram Wright, these guys, I have confidence in them, especially Jabomi, because he was fantastic his freshman year and sophomore year. I mean, well, he's a redshirt junior. So, but I mean, middle linebacker, we have a redshirt senior, redshirt juniors covering that realm. And since I think we're going to run a 4-3, it should really just be Muhammad Toure, a redshirt senior playing middle linebacker. He needs to, he has a big shoes to fill when coming to the terms with losing Tyreen Powell. That's a heartbreaker loss, obviously for all the best reasons, instead of losing him via the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think with Jabome, he's going to be a star this year. He was as a freshman. But here's the thing. I think our running back core is good enough to be very effective. What it's really going to come down to for Rutgers is execution. They cannot make mental mistakes because they can't afford to make mental mistakes like an Ohio State or a Texas or a top-notch team will do. So they have to make sure they're consistent and disciplined in their execution. If they do that and don't make mental mistakes, I think they're going to be good enough to complement the defensive line.
Mm-hmm. And the thing, too, is if Rutgers, they're a team, and Louisville's the same way, if they have more than one or two turnovers, it could be lights out, especially against a team who could capitalize. Like Rutgers' defensive line, if they could create takeaways and shift momentum, that sets up the offense really great.
Yeah.
And Gabe mentioned the special teams. That's another big key. I think that's really going to help Rutgers because Iowa specializes in this. But let's just say Rutgers gets a big stop and they get a beautiful punt return that sets them up first and goal at the 5. That could shift the game on its head like that. Rutgers can all of a sudden go from being 7-0 to 14-0 like that. And I feel like Gabe said, it could also be the other way where they fumble the ball and it could cost them the game.
Yeah, so DT didn't fumble really in North Texas. So that's one of the bright spots. But one of the bad spots when it comes to our special teams is we have 3 different guys for punter, place kicker, and kickoffs. A lot of guys, they might have the go-to, right? The status quo is you have 2 guys, one that's for kickoffs and field goals, and then one who's just a punter. But we have, and some people even have one guy for all 3, but we have 3 different guys, which tells me that we don't have a kicker or a punter that is, strong enough, or it's not like coach isn't confident enough for him to be multiple roles.
So as of right now, if you're telling me Rutgers has got to go kick a game-winning field goal, you and Adam are not going to be very confident, is what you're telling me, Gabe.
Not necessarily. We have Jacob Anderson, sophomore, for punting. We have Jai Patel for place kicking, and Jack Scullion for kickoffs. So Jai Patel, you're going to get a lot of people either cursing at you if you miss a game-winning field goal, or they're going to start praising you like they've never heard of you before, and now you're the deity. So it's up to you, man. I think you can do it, but some things are better left done than said. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think special teams is a great point because field position is one of the things that is so critical and really can make the difference in 3 points, even 7 points. And last year, I didn't think we were very good at special teams. So it goes back to the point I was trying to make before with Rutgers. They have the players, but they don't necessarily have the depth. So everything's going to have to come together. The little things are going to be critical to their success.
And you know what? When you think of last year, the number one word I would use to describe last year is unlucky. And unfortunately, when you think of unlucky teams, you think of them giving up special teams touchdowns. So let's hope that all the unlucky stuff is left last year and we don't see that transfer. To me, it's almost symbolic.
And I got you something to make y'all feel better before I head on out of here. That is, this upcoming year, we will not have another Illinois repeat because Cam Miller.
Please.
Cam Miller will make sure that does not happen because he's experienced, he's seen it all, he's done it all. He's going to be your eyes and ears. If he doesn't like what he sees, love you, Coach Chiano, but he's got to change that play. That will not happen this year. I can 90% guarantee that.
The only thing is he's listed at nickelback, and we have Jacoby Henderson left, Bo Masco right, but to me that says if a guy throws wide, then it might still be fair game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just one of them too. I hope for your all sake that y'all can win, but like I said, Gabe, you and Adam are not crazy. And if you are, I'm crazy with you because I got Rutgers winning 8 games.
Awesome. Love it.
But I appreciate you guys for letting me on. It's always fun to talk Rutgers. Always a joy. And for you all, go Scarlet Knights.
Thanks a lot, Austin. Always great having you on, man. Hope to see you next week, man. Thank you.
You too.
All right. That's our good friend Austin coming out to the show. Always has fantastic comments. We appreciate him being here and taking time to speak with us. Gabe, before the show ends, I got to tell you, I did a little looking at the schedule for this year, and I put the games into 3 categories.
Oh, yes. Okay, here we go.
First category was must-wins, and I put in that category, I put Norfolk State, Ohio, and Miami of Ohio. And then I had those kind of second category was like those maybe games, Illinois, Maryland, Washington, Iowa, and Minnesota.
When you say must-win, are you saying that in the sense like these are too easy to lose, or are you saying we need to win them to stay alive?
Both. We need to win them to stay alive, but they're also extraordinarily winnable games.
Okay.
So I think that we absolutely have to beat those teams, which we should beat. But then we get into that gray area in the second category: Illinois, Maryland, Washington, Iowa, and Minnesota. If we can win 4 of those 5 games, then you know what? Then we've got 7 wins. And then we go into the last category, which is like kind of the reach games.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. And Penn State and Oregon are at home. We take one of those games, we're at 8 wins. We take 2 of them, we're at 9. So I think that there's a high ceiling for Rutgers this year if everything comes together.
With that, you're basically assuming that out of the maybe games, we win 2 or 3.
I'm saying if we won 4 of those 5 games and won all the must wins against teams we should beat, that'd be 7 wins.
Yeah.
And the remaining 3 would be Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. And I think with Penn State being at home and Oregon being at home, I think we can take one of those 2.
You got a little more hope than I do because I couldn't bring myself to say that we'll lose to Penn State. But, I mean, they've freaking brought back Drew Aller again. And, look, you've got all these things against him, and I get it. But that man is just so talented, like to the point where, he might not throw to Cam Miller, but he's still going to throw for at least 300 against us.
Well, Drew Aller, let's be honest. Drew Aller, look, Drew, you're a fantastic quarterback. You've got great skills. We all know that. So when I say you've thrown it to the road team, I'm kind of just, half kidding with you. That was a bad play, but on balance, you've been a great quarterback, and it will be a great challenge for Rutgers. But I think if Rutgers comes into those games with a winning record and that fan base is motivated, we could see a tight one with Penn State and even with Oregon.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Oregon, they lost Gabriel, but like they've always got a next man up mentality, especially at quarterback. So they're just going to find some new gem, and he's just going to play like a top 10 Heisman quarterback. And Ohio State, I'm going to be real with you, Adam. I don't think we have a chance against Ohio State. And sure, Cam Miller can hold the fort down against Jeremiah Smith if he decides I'm not going to be just a nickelback for this game. I'm just going to stick man on him. And, coach would have to approve of that. But I don't know, man. Ohio State, I mean, to me, like, they're entering, like, mid-90s Chicago Bulls. Like, they're going to be a freaking dynasty.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't disagree with you there, but I do think Rutgers has the chance to have a year that people don't expect and to be very competitive leading into that magical 2026 season.
I mean, it's just unfortunate for Michigan fans, right? Because they win in 2023, and they'll forever be grateful to witness that year, especially with all the scandals. But it's like, it's like Yankee fans almost, like the ones that are like my age, right? They see the 09 team, and then they have to see the Red Sox win every couple of years. But it's going to be like that, but it's going to be elevated. They're going to see Ohio State win, there's 5 more years or 6 more seasons until 2030. They're going to win at least 3 of those.
I agree. Well, it's going to be an amazing college football season next year, and I would say in 2026, a magical one for Rutgers. And we're going to be here every week at 7 o'clock as we march towards the next season, which is going to be here before you know it. And every week we are going to be on live Rutgers for our post-game show. But in the meantime, we've got some awesome shows planned for you each week at 7 o'clock. If you like this show, hit that like and subscribe button. Me and Gabe love talking about Rutgers football. Always welcome your comments and call-ins. And we look forward to seeing you next week for another great show. So in the meantime, go Scarlet Knights.
Go Scarlet Knights.